This video is brought to you by All On Board. More on them at the end of this video. Howdy y'all, let's get right into it. I love tennis. I play a lot of tennis and I watch a good amount of tennis, and I'm pretty damn good at tennis, to be honest. And quite frankly, best tennis game in pancake gaming is Mario Tennis on the N64, no cap. But VR allows a chance for a new champion of tennis in gaming, at least to me. One that actually feels like tennis in a way, and at peak possibility could be a successful esport like Pavlov and Echo VR are becoming. First-person tennis, which we're looking at today, is the first honest attempt at this, and up front, for most casual gamers, it's not going to be worth the money at the moment. However, it has a great start with just coming to the Oculus store and a seemingly active development team. There is potential here for greatness, and I'm going to break down the pros and cons, and at the end I'll be playing a tennis match to show off the gameplay. Hey! Do you know that I host monthly VR tournaments with payouts? Now you do. Lots of great games, lots of great community members in the Squashy Discord. I really suggest that you check it out. Links in the doobly-doo. Let's get back to the video, yeah? You are offered two styles of playing tennis, arcade and simulation. The arcade version is where it compensates for you not being a tennis player and gives you an assist for how you are hitting the ball, so that it pretty much typically does what you were at least trying to get it to do. Simulation is the version that attempts to mimic real-life physics. The game's title suggests that the focus of the game is to simulate real-life tennis, so I think we should probably start there. It's also where I have the most to say. Simulation rewards players for following the basics in tennis. If you don't follow the ball with your eyes, you're going to miss or probably hit a bit off of what you think you are doing. If you aren't conscious of your grip angle, then you are going to dive the ball into the net or the ground, or just shank it completely off to the side. It also does a good job of maintaining how much power you choose beyond the game's minimum, specifically when it comes to figuring out if something should be going over the baseline. But that's pretty much all the great things I have to say about the simulation mode. The remainder are things that make the feeling of playing tennis kind of distant, and there's honestly quite a bit that causes that. I think most of the problems stem from the ball interaction on the surface of the racket. In real life, when a tennis ball hits a racket at a decent pace, it compresses heavily into the strings before actually launching off. When you hit in first-person VR, it's very difficult to create significant spin because the ball seems to register based on a singular instant, the racket angle, and not how you follow through completely with your swing. This also rears its head when you look at how soft shots are handled. When you try to do a drop shot or just a light shot in general, there seems to be this minimum force running perpendicular to where the racket face is pointing whenever you hit the ball. So having a touch at the net or baseline isn't really that viable. This hurts in a lot of ways because you're forced to keep your racket flat to avoid the ball going straight into the ground, and now makes it more difficult to get any kind of spin that you were hoping to get, which also, in addition, makes lobbing difficult to impossible. I promise the short rant there is pretty much over, but I would be remiss to not cover serving as well. This is possibly the worst offender of all. The ability to toss is pretty rough, as the Quest 2 controller, which is what I was using, seemed to dial in at an angle that caused tosses to go behind me every time. I had to fake throwing the ball in front of me to get a straight toss upward. Once the toss was right, the previous issues discussed showed heavily by making spin unlikely and making it hard to do any sort of good kick serve or good slice serve. I had a lot of things to say about the simulation mode because I love tennis and I want good tennis in VR so bad. So I really want to share all my opinions honestly on how I see the possible improvements happening to the tennis physics. I hope that it's constructive criticism and I hope that it's useful. This isn't meant to be a thrashing of the game, and I do think that there's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel. This is honestly a great base game as is. With continued work and integration, this could become the tennis VR title that has a great esports backing and a competitive league. But right now it's just not there, and it's going to need a lot of work to get there. However though, let's get back to the discussion on the arcade style. It's actually pretty good at detecting what you are aiming to do and is a great style to just play with friends and family. You feel like you're out there and having a good time, and the better player will pretty much always win at the end of the day, which is what you want. I do wish there was a third option kind of between arcade and simulation where it takes the racket head into account more, but arcade does a sufficient job at making the game playable for pretty much all able-bodied folks. In terms of graphical fidelity, it is largely bare bones, which is fine for a game that is trying to focus on being a simulator, but anyone who gets it should just be warned that the core audience avatar textures are very low resolution. They're sufficient for you to feel like you're in a tennis match though, and that's pretty much all I have to say. The last thing to discuss is the overall movement. There are several ways to move in a match, and none of them are very spectacular. Teleport is an option that is available in single player that allows you to not have to move around side to side or up and down, so you can kind of practice your shots as you get taken directly to the ball. However, this isn't feasible in multiplayer as a movement system because matches would just never end. You just teleport to where the ball is coming and it wouldn't make sense. So it's only available when you're playing single player by yourself. There are a couple of auto run options, but the inability to go to the net frequently and miss balls at the edge of the auto run distance can annoy you. The one that makes the most sense for like an everyday user of the game is the thumbstick option. However, in an attempt to replicate how humans start up for running, they added this kind of weird gradient of speed when you choose a direction. So if I start going left, it just slowly gets faster. And I think this is a reasonable option, but not as the only thumbstick option. Personally, I would much prefer a regular, consistent thumbstick action with the ability to increase speed, maybe with like a button click or a hold. While that wouldn't be super realistic, I think that is probably the most reasonable merger between virtual and real life, and that allows for competitive play in game. I will say I don't have a full tennis court to test this on right now, but if I could do gym scale on this, I absolutely would, and I think it would be really great actually. Whew, okay, that was a lot of talking about physics. Anyway, let's get back into the actual gameplay. There's a training mode where you can choose your court and the thing you're attempting to practice, whether it's forehand, backhand, serve, or mix it between the three. All of the types of play and movement options are available here, so if you're going to play this for the first time, I would suggest going through everything in the training mode to get accustomed to how the game functions before diving into the single or multiplayer. Otherwise, you're probably going to be a little frustrated starting out. The single player section is limited to just a circuit where you can play on different court types against various opponents. It is fun to get to go through these different environments, and it's sufficient for a single player experience as VR games stand now. Their multiplayer connection works well with access to different servers and rooms, as well as the ability to create public and private rooms. The UI isn't incredibly smooth, but it's good and it provides what you need. The devs are relatively active in Discord and Twitter, but I would love to see some hosted tournaments or sponsored events from them to promote community creation and further play down the road. With the game having come out on Quest 2 recently, I do think that there's potential for user base growth as long as the marketing is handled well by the devs. I think that Quest 2 is going to offer a much bigger player base that is going to allow cross-play between PC VR and just Quest 2 VR. I like having this game around, and like I said before, I hope that we can see a lot of great improvements with the physics. If it ever improves massively, I will be shouting this game from the tops of the roofs so that everyone can join me in playing it. However, I can't suggest buying this game for the general VR public right now. It still needs a decent amount of physics changes for me to do that. If you don't mind the physics side, however, and are okay with just playing arcade mode with friends, then I would say it's worth it. You definitely need to have some multiplayer going on.
Hey!
Nice to see you again, buddy.
Let's play. Let's go. Oh, I love this game.
All right, check this out.
Did you roll already?
I wonder rematch.
Hey, great move.
So, what are we playing next?
Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate your time and viewership. If you'd like to join the community, I host monthly VR tournaments and community nights in my Discord. I would love for you to drop by, say hi, and get involved. On top of that, we're always talking about new news and events in social and casual sport VR. Look forward to seeing you around.